It's really lovely to see such a big audience here for the rise of shorts. This panel has been produced by Documentary Campus. We have had an association with Sheffield for a number of years now, and we produce industry panels with an international flavour. And today we have people from Greece, from the United States, from the UK, and greet them all, and I will pass you over to Andrew Buchanan, who is chairing. And before I go, I have to say, if you need to leave early, just sneak past. It's okay, the panellists won't be worried, will they?
No.
Well,
and,
not unless everybody leaves.
Not unless you all leave, so at least leave somebody in here. And also, when it's question time, which will be at the end of this panel, if you could wait for the microphone to get to you, because it's all being recorded. Okay, thank you very much, and let's get on with the shorts.
Okay, who's got one of these that isn't turned to silent? If it isn't turned to silent, please turn it to silent. I'm not going to ask if there's a doctor in the house. No, there isn't. Right, well, welcome to Make It Short. Slightly ironic that actually, given that our definition of a short film, collectively we asked ourselves, we think it's anything between 5 seconds and 30 minutes. So we've got 3 times the length of a longest short to discuss shorts. What I hope we're going to be able to talk about, what I know we're going to be able to talk about, and I hope that you're going to take away from this afternoon, is what is happening in the world of shorts, how things might be changing, and I hope that we'll be able to show you some of the opportunities that are around for short filmmakers. Now, as I said, my name's Andrew Buchanan, I'm chairing the session, and just briefly, I'd like each of the members of the panel to introduce themselves now. Adam?
Hi, I'm Adam G. I've flown in all the way from London N2, and I work for Channel 4 as a commissioning editor for factual shorts.
Hi, I'm Katie Metcalfe, and I'm a contributor to online shorts magazine Short of the Week.
My name is Kerrin Sheldon. I am the director of Humanity for iPad, which is an iPad app, and also the owner of a media agency that does short films for brands.
My name is Myrto. I have a very long surname. I'm not going to bother with it. And I'm an independent producer and filmmaker from Greece, and I have a company called City of Errors.
Hi, I'm Eleni Atsikbasis. I'm from Greece, and I'm an independent film producer. Thank you.
So we have an international panel, and we have a wide range of experience. I'd like to start with a little bit of history. Okay, for anyone who doesn't recognise those are 2 of the very first short films ever made. The first one was made to be shown on the Edison kinetoscope. Now, the kinetoscope was a kind of what the butler saw machine, which was in an arcade. One person viewed it. And that, I think, was made in 1894. The second film was made by the Lumiere brothers, and that was using a Lumiere camera, which wasn't a Lumiere camera, but the camera they used, which not only took the film, but it also projected it. And that was designed to be projected in front of an audience. So right from the very first days of film, we've had 2 sort of rival ways of seeing films. One, single person, like looking at it on your iPad or on your computer screen. The second, public display, like looking at it in the cinema, or like looking at it, you know, with your friends and family around a TV screen, or projected on your home wall. Now, clearly what's happened over the ensuing century is that the shared experience short film has predominated. But I believe, and various commentators have pointed out, and I think it's true, that now, because of the rise of online delivery, the day of the individual viewing, we're going back to the kinetoscope. We're going back to consuming things as individuals. So with that little bit of history, and just to set the idea that there is perhaps a slight difference between the types of films, or between ways of showing things that are either for collective viewing or for individual viewing, I'd like really to start with Adam. Would you like to tell us about Channel 4, the shorts you do, and just some basics about what it is that you're after and what you're looking for and why?
Well, I would say we're very much in the business of short films to be viewed individually on phones and the like, and then to be shared. So I think, without having heard your theory before, I think we're kind of in a point where they're being fused. So Channel 4 has been doing shorts for many years, but it's only since last summer that a really concerted, strategic, properly kind of conceived approach to shorts has been put into place. And since August last year, we've been releasing various series of shorts to sit mainly on our on-demand video platform, which was called 4OD, is now called All 4. And I'd say we've been doing a bit of range finding to see what works for us. So I wanted to start just by giving you a sort of a good sense of the range of what we create in terms of factual shorts. So I'm going to show you a reel which is just short of 5 minutes long. It covers quite a lot of different programs. It looks like it's been cut together by someone with a pair of garden shears in terms of how the clips have been joined together, but there's little I can do about that at this juncture. But I hope it will give you a decent sort of sense of what kind of waters that we're fishing in.
Well, I'm never going to look at Daleks in the same way again, I can tell you.
So first of all, I'd just like to, so you've got a sense of the range there. I'd just like to connect it back to our remit. So for those of you that don't know the ins and outs of Channel 4, we're basically a public service broadcaster that operates in a commercial framework. And we have a very simple remit. It's only got 4 things in it. It's designed to be distinctive, innovative, to give a voice to minorities that don't normally get a voice on TV, and to be educative. So one thing you'll notice that's common to a number of those clips, a lot of them are kind of insights into subcultures that we don't normally get to see, whether that's the world of black lesbians or tattoo artists. Then I think I'll just very quickly give a sense of how these are commissioned. So I use a very simple method. This is not sort of common to all the shorts commissioners at Channel 4, but this is my sort of way of expressing it, really. But I think fundamentally we're quite sort of subject agnostic. We just have to hit 5 points with each commission, which are entertaining, and I hope you can tell from what you've seen, but it's a fundamental of our shorts that they are fundamentally entertaining. That's the sort of backbone of all the commissions. Secondly, they're very much focused on 16 to 24s / maybe 34s at a push. Thirdly, I try and make sure that they have a bit of fun or joie de vivre, because it's quite easy to sort of lose sight of that, both in television and on shorts. A kind of an optional one, but it's nice to have, is if it's got a bit of Channel 4 cheekiness, because that's the sort of tone of Channel 4 as an organisation and in terms of its content. And finally, that it's action and actuality oriented and not too sort of talky. So those are the 5 sort of simple things that I'm looking for when commissioning. And I'd just sort of round off by, also actually there's a couple of other things I should mention before I finish. Then I would sort of really point to the importance of everything from the title to 15 seconds into the show. I think, as you'll all appreciate, the world of online shorts is a very noisy world, and it's very difficult to punch through. And when we started commissioning last summer, I think we made a number of films that were basically just too quiet, and they sort of belong on Vimeo or something, but they don't belong on our platform. They don't really work on our platform. So to some degree, you have to take a noisy approach, and to some degree a sort of tabloidy sensibility in that bit between the title and 15 seconds into the film. And that's very much true of big sort of factual hits we have on Channel 4, like things like Embarrassing Bodies have exactly that same mentality, a noisy surface but a lot of public value beneath it. So just working through that sort of sequence. So I'll just use one of the examples there. So you saw a section there from a film called Black Lesbian Handbook. When that film came in to be pitched, it was called It's a Girl Thing. Black Lesbian Handbook is obviously a much more provocative title, but it works to sort of help it punch through. Then you need, and it may seem very cosmetic, but you need a really good thumbnail, because most people are buying or choosing off of a carousel with a thumbnail. So if you go and have a look at some of the thumbnails on All 4, you'll see the sort of approach. But it's really important to not leave ostensibly cosmetic stuff out of your equation. Then it's really important to have a sort of tagline that really works. So, for example, one of our very successful series recently is called Rich Kids Go Shopping. And the strapline for it is something like, they're young, they're smart, and they've got more money than you. So it's sort of pokey, but it's important because to get people actually in there in the first place. Then, first 15 seconds, it's really got to grab you. So if we go back to like the first episode of Black Lesbian Handbook, first thing you hear is the director says to this girl, the one that we saw in the film there, so how many girls have you turned gay? And she sort of laughs and answers. It's not like that. But the thing is, after that first 15 seconds, you're not really going to turn off. And one of the really striking things about our shorts is that the average complete viewing is over 90% across all of our short form content. And that's because of this kind of approach of getting people in there and immersed enough that they stick through to the end. On YouTube, it might be 25 to 30%, so it's quite a striking thing. The other thing that's quite distinctive is that people will binge watch and do a whole series of 6 or 8, for example, just in one viewing of 18 minutes or whatever. So that's really useful because it's so much easier than having to get people back again and again for the same series. Then I'll just finish off with some sort of meat and 2 veg things. In terms of how to pitch to us, I cover 4 factual departments, which is documentaries, specialist factual, which is basically TV speak for the sort of school subjects, science, history, art, and all that stuff. Features, which is kind of lifestyle, and factual entertainment, which is where I would say the centre of gravity is for this. And then I've got a colleague, Jodie Smith, who covers more comedy and entertainment. So it's kind of simple. Whack us over an email, start off with a paragraph, start a conversation, as simple as that. The tariff is quite tight. It's very similar. If any of you have done any work for our arts strand called Random Acts, it's similar to that. So it's about £1,000 a minute, plus talent fees on top of that. But it's not huge. It's basically focused on people creating simple ideas really well executed. That's the essence of it. And when you do a simple idea really well executed, like, say, the tattoo film that you saw there, it's easy to sort of make the margins and come out ahead, and that's what's the intention. In terms of rights, we have a sort of 3-year exclusive license, and then any kind of proceeds are split 50-50, which is quite a common pattern in Channel 4 between broadcaster and the indie. And I think that's probably most of the stuff that you need. Yeah.
I think that's been a really useful introduction to what you're looking for at Channel 4, but I also think there's some really good bullet points, takeaways about that for any short filmmaker.
That was my intention.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Particularly in the crowded online space.
Yeah.
So obviously here we've got, as Adam says, a broadcaster who's showing shorts online, but also still showing some shorts as broadcast.
Well, just to be really clear, these are absolutely intended for online viewing, and the whole point of it is to enrich the video-on-demand environment. So you've got these things sitting alongside Gogglebox, Indian Summers, all the stuff that you know and love on Channel 4, and it's got to kind of hold its own and be able to sit there in a credible way.
And that's important. It's holding its own against broadcast material. Okay, Adam, thank you. Katie, Short of the Week. Tell us a bit about Short of the Week and how that works. And, I mean, again, this is different from the model that Channel 4 are using, but over to you.
Well, I've been a contributor for Short of the Week since February, so I'm one of the newest members of the team. And we believe that the most interesting stories are being told online, and that's really the sphere where the formulas are being broken. I'm also a programmer for Sundance Film Festival, and I used Short of the Week a lot as a resource just to keep tabs on what was going on online. So sort of coming at it from both those 2 places. So I have a little clip to show you to introduce Short of the Week. Just be warned, there's some quite aggressive piano music at the beginning. What I wanted to show you was sort of the interface, but the great thing about Short of the Week, it has really good search functions. So everything's categorized into genre and into themes. So if you're looking for animation, you can go on and click on animation, and you get all the animations on Short of the Week. You can also search by country. You can search by whether you're looking for dark humor, or if you're looking for something more political. We also write long-form articles about sort of the state of the short film industry and what's going on. And the way Short of the Week works is we accept submissions. It's $30 to submit. And when you submit, you're guaranteed a response within 7 days. If your film is not accepted, then you'll receive several paragraphs explaining why the film wasn't accepted. And if your film is accepted, then the film will be featured on the site, and we'll also write up a review. And we do a lot of social to promote the film as well. And we have a really engaged audience that love to share. So that's one of the real plus points of being
Katie,
featured.
just interrupt. It's no longer just Short of the Week. You put stuff up every day, don't you?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So it's pretty much every day we have a short, goes live 10 a.m. EST.
And you were telling me yesterday that you thought of the shorts submitted to you, probably 5, 6, 7% actually got accepted.
Yeah, so we probably get about 10 submissions a day, and of those, yeah, about 6% are accepted.
Resubmissions welcome.
Yeah, resubmissions welcome. So there have been instances where we've given feedback and then a filmmaker has resubmitted sometimes the same film. And then they may be accepted or we'll explain in further depth. So, I mean, for 20 quid, you're getting some constructive criticism. So it's a pretty useful resource. So there was a film, actually, what I wanted to mention, seeing as we're at a documentary film festival, was that we actually, the largest number of films that are submitted to us are actually profile documentaries. And I think that largely has to do with the rise of the use of DSLR. And for that reason, we're extra ruthless with them, because they're really well produced, and they focus on an individual with a passion, or somebody who's doing something that influences others or has changed their life. But we get so many of these, we are quite tough on those. And actually, I'm about to show you a profile doc, but this is one that it's from 2012. But it was just really, it's a good example of a film that's been really successful online. And it's called A Brief History of John Baldessari by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman, who actually directed Catfish, the feature documentary from 2010. So, I mean, obviously what makes this film so great for the internet is the fact that it just gets right in there. It's a really fast edit. And I just wanted to echo Adam's point of really getting the audience into the film in those first couple of minutes is really crucial. So that's just the amount of information you get there just from 2 minutes of a 9-minute film. It's really great. It also really captures John Baldessari's character, because some short docs can kind of glorify their subjects a little bit. This just sets him up as an ordinary guy, and makes it really, it's something that everyone can identify with, and it's entertaining and fun. But I wanted to sort of mention about length, because even though this is a 9-minute doc, say you have a 25-minute doc, it can still work really well online. And what we've noticed is that we still get as many views for the long docs as we do for the really short ones. But the crucial thing is capturing your audience in those first couple of minutes. So if the film needs to be 25 minutes, that's fine, but you can't be slow about it. You've got to dive right in. And also a note on pacing and editing, because as online curators, we have to pay a lot of attention to the delivery of a film, in considering whether it's going to resonate with our audience. Another success story I wanted to show you is a film called Overview, which is also from 2012, by the Planetary Collective. We can roll that clip. So here's the website. Actually, if you could scroll through.
Yes.
So we just had a redesign recently, so you can see the title of the film, and then if you click on it, you'll see, oh yeah, there you go. So you can see all the different types of genres you can look through. And actually what's interesting there is you actually see the numbers. So you can see which films are, which type of genres are kind of more...
for Westerns.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe some more abusive films we need,
Plenty of crime, yes.
Crime, yeah. No, they're up there. Actually, we don't actually acquire the films. They're films that are either already online or they've just been released online. So we link. So if you upload your film to Vimeo or YouTube or whatever platform it's on, we link to it. So the film will stay on Short of the Week as long as it's online, basically.
So just for the mic, that question was, does it only stay up for the week? No, the answer is it stays up.
Yeah.
And it's not exclusive.
No,
let's be clear
there's
about
no,
that.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
You can
exactly.
be on any other platform you like
Yeah.
as well.
So we've had, like, example, recently Condé Nast have acquired a bunch of short films, and we simultaneously released them on Short of the Week as they released them, just to sort of drive some extra traffic towards the videos. So just to give a quick bit of context, that was about the sort of profound experience that astronauts had when they went into space. And there was all this emphasis on we're going into space, but when they actually looked down and looked at the Earth behind them, they suddenly had this overview sort of sense and really felt, you know, why is everybody fighting? And the world just looks so beautiful. So they released this documentary online, and it had over 7 million views. And actually, off the basis of releasing it online, they were able to crowdfund their feature, which showed at South by Southwest this year. So it can show you the power of putting a film out online. And I had a few bits of advice about releasing, but should I come back to that later on?
I think we just need to move on. Maybe we'll come on to releasing and so on in the questions afterwards, if there's time on that. Thank you. I mean, I think that's a good example of sort of aggregating material, interesting material, above all, not exclusive, which I think is important. And obviously the submission procedure is clearly detailed on the site, as I remember.
Yeah, that's right.
So now let's move on to Kerrin. Now, Kerrin from Humanity TV, you've taken a rather different approach. You've decided to actually kind of own your own platform or create your own platform for your short films. So
sure, yeah, I'm stubborn. So yeah, the Humanity TV, and I'm the director and co-founder. I'm also the director and co-founder of Xeno Productions, which is sort of created out of Humanity. In that by doing the work, short films, short documentaries, we were started to get paid gigs to do brand videos, and that sort of turned into a whole different beast on its own, and then also a part-time journalist. So there's a few different short films I've done for publications. I have a few coming out here in the next couple of months. So yeah, I'm definitely on the creator side, and that's why I like people like this, because there's some place to put your stuff and house it and show it. But so I'll take you just through sort of the process of how I got started. And I actually will head to the iPad because I have an iPad app. So excuse if you were in the last, I might get double. If you were in the last panel and talked about like codecs and compression and stuff, I'm sorry, because the iPad will compress everything you do. So I apologize for that. But so I got started about 3 years ago. I was actually a writer and content manager at a travel startup in New York City. And sort of the idea to do short films and to do these particular type of short films sort of came out of two different things. The first was a lifestyle choice, right? It was my buddy and I, and we decided, hey, we'd rather, work at a startup for 12 hours a day in New York City and live here. We'd actually have to go out and see the world. And what are the different ways we can do that? At the same time, I was a content manager at a travel startup, and my job was to basically curate content and get other people to create content for the site. And the site used a lot of images and a lot of text, but also had a little bit of video, but it was just very difficult to find high-quality images, high-quality video. And so our decision was, hey, it's cheap now to shoot, and this is 3-4 years ago, so it's cheap to shoot on something like a 60D or a 5D, but there's just not that much good stuff out there. And at the same time, you look at travel shows, because this originally sort of started off as a travel show, you sort of saw a host sort of being boppy in front of a landscape and talking about the best places to stuff your face, basically. So we want to take a more documentary approach, a more cerebral approach, and show the locals, like how do they interact with the landscape, how do they interact with the different places that you can go. So we started off basically film school by fire. We traveled around Asia for 8 months, saved up. I think we each had $6,000, $7,000 from our job that we saved up, stretched that as far as it could go, and created Humanity. And what Humanity is it's short films about fascinating people around the world. And sort of what we found as we started doing agency work and as we started making money that way was that Humanity, as you'll probably see in many different places online, is the short film, featuring a person, beautiful shots is very, very saturated. It's very difficult to showcase a short documentary now because it's very, very cheap and easy to do. It's difficult to do a very good one, obviously, but it's easy to do it. So it's hard to get through the noise, especially on something like a YouTube. So we thought, well, maybe it'd be better if we sort of created our own platform. What if we created something where our stuff could live and then package things around that? And then we started kind of looking at the iPad, and you look at some of our favorite iPad magazines that had similar type of content, a National Geographic, a Condé Nast Traveler, and they just weren't hitting video as hard as I thought they should have, especially on the iPad. It's built for the visual medium, so photos, videos, things that are sort of just sit back and recline. Also, we kind of want to get off the laptop because people are always doing other things on their laptop, right? The iPad is sort of a consumer device. It's not something that's hard to do work on. It's sort of a pain in the butt to do emails unless you have a keyboard. But if you're on your iPad, you're probably watching Netflix, or you're probably reclining and reading a magazine or something like that. So we wanted to put ourselves there because our stuff, not every documentary, we don't want to make the first 10 or 15 seconds really, really pull you in. Sometimes a little slower, a little more cerebral is kind of the way we'd want to go. So here is the app that we built and released recently. And so what we did is each issue is a different country. And then within that country, we have 10 to 12 short films on different people. And as we started with Iceland and stuff, it's much more travel and adventure focused with sort of culture in terms of arts and musicians and things like that. And then as we've moved on, we've definitely become more interested in sort of the deeper issues. And depending on the country too, that obviously dictates what you cover. So Israel and Palestine is obviously a little more issue-based and interested on the people that kind of are in those two countries than say in Iceland, which is much more adventure-based. And that actually is similar to how Scotland and Albania are sort of laid out. Scotland is more travel-y and issue-based, where Albania is more, it's a very interesting country. So what you do, so this is, you can either choose either country here. So I'm clicking. It's going to be kind of hard to see since you can't see a mouse, but top left corner, you see Explore Issue, and I can click that and go into Iceland. So what we did in Iceland is we sort of routed exactly kind of where we went. And you can explore by region by going through the little wheelie at the bottom, and it sort of tells you about that region. And one important thing that we really wanted to get into was sound, trying to get people, to immerse people into the location. We're really inspired by the different interactive documentaries, whether it's High Rise or Hollow, and that sort of was born out of the idea of you can encapsulate people with music and by mapping everything out. So you can either explore that way. All the orange are featured stories, which are the short films. All the blue are photo essays. All the greens are just cool travel experience videos that you can watch. And if you click the bottom right corner, there's a grid view, and you can explore that way as well. So here are all the different people we've featured, from a scuba diver to an artist to a conservationist. So there's a lot of different people that you meet, and therefore you kind of learn about that country, learn about that place through the locals that you meet. So you kind of see everyone that is on the right column. As we scroll through, we see the different people that we meet. And they're all 4 or 5 minute short films, and sort of each style is dictated by what that short film is about. So I'll leave it there for humanity, and then sort of, since this is the future of short form docs, I'll kind of give sort of what I've learned, the struggles with doing something like this. The nice thing about doing it this way is you have an app where all your content can live. So based upon what countries we go to, and so we can choose what we want to shoot and what we want to feature, we have a place for it. And because we're not sort of reliant on doing something for a publisher or whatever it might be, we can do a lot of different things. So by doing the app, we can also sort of put more things around the short films. They just don't have to live by themselves. So we have photo essays on different parts of Iceland that you can scroll through and have, so we have soundscapes that go with those as well. So I think one interesting thing about short films now is because it's so difficult to find an audience online with a single film, there are different avenues that you can take, whether it's an interactive documentary and you sort of create an experience out of it, whether it's an iPad app and create an experience out of it, is if you don't have the documentary that can stand by itself, there is more information you can place around it very easily in different ways to sort of bring that level up and to sort of enhance the experience. So that is one reason why we did the iPad, was just because, to be honest, the short films are good and I really like them, but together they're a much bigger package with 10 short films and 20 photo essays and travel experiences in an interactive environment that you sort of lean back and experience than a single video online. There's just so much high quality online that it's hard to break through. I'll sit back down.
Kerrin, what made you decide on the subscription model? Did you investigate others?
Yes, we did. So currently, and I think that's actually what we're sort of changing as we move forward, is what we found is for something like the iPad, it's very difficult to get people at the point of purchase, already on their iPad and already wanting to consume something. You have to find them in some other way. So whether you have an avenue of like, short of the week where they push people to you, it's a lot of time is spent trying to get people to the app. So even running ads, on iPads themselves, it's difficult to get people to that point. So I think that the tough part with creating your own brand and your own platform is that you have to get the audience there, and that's something that's very difficult to do, and it's a different role. As a creator, as my co-founder who's also a creator, is that's not where we want to spend the time, more or less. So I think we actually are talking to a few brands now, and we have 2 issues out and 2 forthcoming this year, and hopefully we'd like to do 1 every other month. We're talking to different brands to sort of push that out, and which is probably the best avenue for it is, can someone put their name on it and help you push it, who already has a built-in audience, rather than sort of starting from scratch. And while we have an audience on things like Vimeo, it's just not enough to, go to the app, purchase. You would need, 10,000 an issue, or whatever it might be, to even pay for the production.
But and without being too indiscreet, you're still kind of subsidizing this from the production work you're doing.
Yes.
But the hope is that this will eventually...
the next project. This is sort of this is definitely the passion project. And so the other thing I do is create short films for brands. And that the past year that's been most of the work. And I would also say in terms of the future of the short films is, every brand has become a type of creator. They're all content creators, so there's a lot of opportunity, a ton of opportunity, in getting into sort of brand videos. And they're also all sort of going more towards the documentary format, telling stories online.
And you were telling me yesterday that actually what's been happening is brands or marketing people have been seeing humanity, and that's then driven them to you to ask you to make similar type of content.
Correct, exactly, yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of, I'm going to use virtuous circle. Sorry about that, but nonetheless.
Yeah, no, that's exactly correct. So one of our biggest clients is Marriott, and they saw one of our videos on a chef, and they're big in food and beverage, so they said, we'll come in and do some short films about our chefs. And so we basically created the exact same content in our own style, a little more brandy with a little hot, upbeat music sort of thing, more jangly guitars, but it basically came out the same way, is that brands are creating their own content, and therefore...
And do you think if you'd set out to make long-form travel, that it would be a much harder row to hoe than using shorts?
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest thing is what's the greatest amount of reward for basically the least amount of work. And I mean, when it comes down to it, we've made 70 short films of humanity in 2.5 years.
And you don't have to deal with commissioning editors.
No,
did I say that?
Well, so
saving your presence, sir.
which now is, especially coming from a part where I wasn't a filmmaker, I didn't go to film school, I kind of taught myself, is that's a great way to get started because the barriers to entry are so low, right? You can spend $1,000 and have enough good gear to make a nice film. Now I'm starting to move, more towards long form. I kind of want to make something with a little more thought and stretch it out and really stay with the character. But
I think as we now, I'd like to move on. But I think that's also interesting is that there are many examples which all of you will know of people who've started in short form and whose work has been noticed, and and then go on to do long form. Or indeed, you've just shown us somebody who does long form who's come back to short form. So there's no longer perhaps a kind of I do short form, oh no, you don't do long. It's a route forwards, it's a way of learning, it's also a way of getting your work seen. Mm-hmm. Right, so now moving on, so that's about travel, that's about your passion and so on. But Myrto, you're also driven by a passion, but it's a rather different type of passion, isn't it? Tell us about City of Errors and how that came about. And also the other thing, which is one of the reasons why we've invited Myrto and Eleni on, is because just to talk a bit about the situation in countries like Greece at the moment, where the situation is not so good for filmmakers. And so, if you would, between you, cover the idea of, how you as filmmakers are managing to survive in a country whose economy is, to put it mildly, in some difficulties. Anyway, Myrto, over to you about City of Errors.
Okay, so City of Errors was born in 2009. The whole idea was to create some kind of film that didn't talk about the myriads of problems that Greece is facing and that especially the city of Athens is facing, but to talk about the people that give solutions to those problems. The whole thing started kind of out of the blue because I got really frustrated with what I was living. I was living in Athens, and I got really frustrated about the state of the city at that point, and above all, the state of the citizens and their behavior towards the city. So, to cut the story short, for the past 5 years, I've been developing and producing this project, which in the end became a DIY cross-media platform. It even became a startup. What happened is we looked for funding for the first 2 years. I looked for funding. I knocked the door of our national broadcaster. They did give us some development money, but then right now we don't even have a national broadcaster. Things were, it became obvious for me that if I was gonna wait for somebody else to help me financially with this project, an institution, a broadcaster, a foreign broadcaster, I would wait forever. And for me, it was a huge need to create a platform that spoke about how important it is as citizens to get involved in the problems of our city, to stop whining, to become active citizens, but really active citizens, not just this cliche we have about active citizens, let's go all plant a tree somewhere and we're active. So I thought, okay, this is not happening. I'm not going to find any money. I really want to do this. It was a feature film in the beginning. And then I got into the cross-media world, went to a lot of workshops and hot dogs, etc. And I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a video saying what I want to do. And I will try to get money.
So you got money and you got hands, didn't you?
Basically hands, no money.
Oh. So we need money.
Yeah.
We need.
You got some money, 500
500 in donations, and then we did a crowdfunding campaign. We got another 2,000. That was in 2011.
Yeah.
And to my surprise, many professionals started contacting us saying, hey, I really like this project. I want to help. And these were community managers, iPhone developers, people that were real professionals working. They had jobs, you know, they weren't unemployed and had nothing to do. So that showed us that there's something there, you know, there's a huge need to make our cities better, to make them more humane, not only in Greece, because we had a lot of interest from outside Greece as well. Okay, in Athens we have our problems, London and Sheffield have their own problems. But, you know, the need for civic engagement and civic education is huge in every city in the world almost, in some more than others. So we went on, and for the past 4 years, we did everything to move on, to produce more films. We've made 10 short films, a series of short interviews, inspiring interviews from active citizens, and also we even created an app, an iPhone app, which took us a year to develop because the developer was a volunteer, you know. And it all ended when we went into the startup community to find money there, and everybody was very interested. You know, big companies, they were like, yeah, our CSR could be used in there and everything, but it wasn't, you know. So it became a bit depressing, and in the end, how the story ends is I went to ESODoc last year, the European Social Documentary Workshop, and for the first time, I had the chance to work with an interactive designer to see how this platform could actually function with user-generated content, because that was the most important thing of this platform, the user-generated content, which is so hard to get. And so I worked with Jamie for a day, and then I realized that this project needs money. It cannot go on like that, you know. And I've spent 4 years of my life doing it. I'm very happy I did it. But now we're at a point where I've stopped dealing with it for the past 6 months because I couldn't handle it anymore. And now I feel very fresh, and we're rebranding the whole idea. We're going to work with a lot of mock-ups this time, not try and do the thing to show what we want to do, just do the mock-ups first. learned a lot from this, and what I want to say is that if it weren't for the short form, it would have been impossible to even attempt it, you know, and as far as the impact is concerned, I don't have a measurable impact of what we've done, which is very important when you're dealing with CSR, for example. Yeah. But, you know, we have people who have come to us and have said, hey, you know, I've started picking up my dog's poop, you know, or, which I didn't before, or, hey, I saw this grassroots initiative on your website and I gathered my friends and we collected money and we gave them some money. And very little things, but really in a city like Athens, which is completely a mess and community has disappeared completely, this is like a very strong thing. This is something to be proud of. I hope the experience will be used somewhere else, but if it weren't for the online short, I don't think any of this could have ever happened. Yeah. So I think it's an opportunity for all of us. I think,
you know, whether it's picking up poop, whether it's, you know, volunteering, whether it's, you know, I think it's a really good example of how documentary makers can actually, you know, push for and create change in their communities. And of course that now leads us neatly on, I hope, onto you, Eleni. And Eleni's just come back. You live much of the year on Lesvos, don't you?
I'm living on Lesvos, but mostly in Athens. When I go to Lesvos, yeah.
And so Eleni's just obviously living there. She and the whole community there have been greatly affected by the current refugee crisis. Mm-hmm. And Eleni's going to show us a clip, which I should emphasise is a research clip. This isn't far from finished film, but it's just to give you an idea. Anyway, Eleni, over to you, and about why you think short film is the right form at the moment for telling the story, and what you hope to do with it.
Well, for this particular story, I think it's the right form because it gives us the opportunity to actually, and we have a duty to go there at the minute that the story is happening, to document what the people in Lesvos are feeling, and to get the stories out, to see how we can approach the people that can help. So I would like to show a little bit about the story.
Do you need to give some background? Because I think when we were talking earlier, I wasn't aware of the situation on Lesvos.
Lesvos is the third largest island of the Greek islands, and it's a population of 100,000 people. And currently they're faced with about 1,000 arrivals from Turkey of Syrian, Afghans, Africans, and the community there is doing as much as they can to help.
1,000 a day.
1,000 a day, sorry. 1,000 a day.
You've got 40,000, 50,000 refugees on the island, an island that's got 100,000 population.
Yeah.
It's clearly some stress and issues.
It's an explosion, really. It's not only stress, it's people can't cope with the amount of refugees that are coming, and it's not going to stop as the weather gets better. The boats are coming every day, maybe 3 or 4 at a time in different spots of the island. The community there is very desperate as well. So the material that I shot is research material to see what the local people are doing and what they're thinking. And it's trying to get the message out how we can deal with it. So this story is a great human story. It's about a person and a community that wants to bring change. And I think the short form gives us the opportunity to film situations that are happening at that moment. And we have a duty to ask the people there that are experiencing those things at the minute what's going on. We can't wait for commissioning editors. We can't wait for broadcasters to come in. It's telling the story as it is.
Also, sorry, it's important to say that in Greece there is no short slot in television.
Well, you don't have a broadcaster for a start.
In the other channels, there isn't such a thing. You know, it's 45 minutes. No.
45 minutes.
Yeah, Ruth, you asking a question?
The slots.
Is there a microphone there somewhere?
Is there a microphone in the house?
No.
There was
here it
short
is.
for Release TV.
Also, you know, I guess the thing that comes out of what you're saying is that we're not getting it in news. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we go to the BBC or we're not actually getting what's happening on the ground. And that is also the wonder of being able to go out there and make the short. It's sort of the citizen journalism. It's it's people able to get involved in their own backyard, and that's where the short really really can flourish. And then you have to see if you can...
But it relies on somebody deciding to do it,
Exactly.
whatever the financial consequences.
Well, it's almost like, you know, is there a doctor in the house? It's almost like, is there a documentarian in
Yeah.
the house? And you must go out and tell the story. We have a duty. I mean, in Greece, we don't have a national broadcaster, like we've said at the minute. And when we do have a national broadcaster, the funding opportunities are very poor. They fund something like 14 films per year, short films, and the budgets are from 10 to 25,000 euro. For productions. And when they are selected, if there's a selection round, usually they may be put aside to allow filmmakers to make feature films. So we are finding it very difficult. But I still believe that we have to tell those stories without budgets.
Without budgets.
Yeah, so, and that's a good segue into budgets.
Well, exactly, because I then wanted to come back and sort of round up. Thank you very much. I mean, I think obviously, if that's seen by the right people, and I certainly hope it is, the, UNHCR, Red Cross, whatever, I think that's a really good example of documentary helping change people's views. And hopefully not just for the people in Lesbos, but also for the people, for the refugees and for the people throughout the Mediterranean region. But let's now come back to what you were starting to talk about, sort of distribution, rights, how to get hold of things, budgets, this kind of thing. I mean, we've got, you were talking about sort of £1,000 a minute at one end, if I remember the figure. Yes. You're talking about doing it, for yourself. What are the kind of ranges of budgets that you're aware of for shorts across the globe? Any thoughts?
I understand there's a Euro connection that works primarily for short film co-productions, which Greece is not a part of because they cannot actually come in as a partner. And they're talking about budgets from 100,000 to 200,000.
For what?
For short film.
But how long a short? For a 30-minute or?
I'm not sure about the duration, but I know that the Euro connection, we are not members of that. Yeah. Greece cannot be a member of that anyhow.
This is Euro connection?
Euro connection.
Does anyone in the audience know anything about Euro connection? Okay, we need to Google it. Don't know that one at all, okay?
Well, I didn't know about it until last week as well. Yeah.
So you have to pretend not to be Greek, do you?
We have to put someone as the front man.
Yeah, or do a deal with somebody. Yeah. Well, okay, so that's 100,000 for a short, but I assume that's a feature.
I would think it's a feature length for that sort of budget.
Yeah, okay. What else? I mean, what?
The only budgets I'm really aware of at the moment are budgets from commissioning platforms like Dazed and Nowness, ID, Condé Nast are commissioning now. But they're just to put the films exclusively online for, say, 6 months, and then they can live online beyond that. But, I mean, I don't think they're much beyond £3,000 or... Yeah, they're small, but they're
for a 3 to 5 minute. 5 minute.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you? When you were looking at this, I mean, without asking you to reveal commercial secrets.
Yeah. Well, no. Media agency work is by far the best paying, and that can get up from $10,000 to $15,000, maybe a little higher for a big brand like a Marriott or a Renaissance. And that's where we make most of our work. On the journalist side, I've done one for the New York Times. We have a few stories coming out and some other things in the next couple months. Those are break-even budgets, basically. Once you sort of pay for travel and expenses and whatever it might be, and give yourself like a few days, they're basically break-even budgets.
But you might be able to use that to subsidise the cost of getting you to Patagonia to make an issue of humanity.
Right.
So,
no, exactly. And so we use the media agency stuff, and we'll do a few of those videos a month if possible, and try to stack them in a week or two, and then we'll take a couple months and do something else, and then we'll do it as cheaply as possible.
Yeah. Myrto, what are you anything to add on this in terms of budget ranges?
I don't know. In Greece, I've been paid 1,000 euros for directing a 45-minute episode for television. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I should be in the conversation.
No, that's exploitation. That is.
Yeah.
It's usually we pay money to make. I mean, I have to cover my expenses. We pay ourselves. Yeah.
Suddenly, £1,000 a minute's looking pretty damn good.
Yeah. It is, yes. So I expect to see sort of people clustered around Adam after this, like this.
I mean, just to reiterate, the reason for that tariff, so it's £1,000 a minute, not if you've got on-screen talent or something, that's over and above. But the rationale behind it is to create simple ideas, very well executed. Yeah. That's why it's set like that. You can come out ahead quite easily as long as you keep it relatively simple. and don't have millions of foreign locations or too complex ideas. That's for what we call short form originals. We also do branded content, and then you're into a completely different sort of sphere, because there's a lot of money knocking around for branded content in short form. But what I find is very interesting, if you take the tattoo film that I showed before, if you went back to the indies and said, look, you can have 5 times the budget, the fact is, other than having sort of a bit longer lunch and more taxes or whatever, there isn't really anything you could spend it on, because they've created exactly the right scale of idea. There's absolutely nothing to spend it on. So I think that's a good, good sign that you've hit the right sort of territory.
What about sort of distribution? I mean, a number of you talked about and getting things noticed. You've talked about the difficulties of getting humanity material noticed. Obviously, Short of the Week is a way of doing it. Any thoughts to add about getting exposure, getting noticed?
I would say that before you put your film online, you have to have a fully baked online strategy in place. So that means, because those first 5 days are crucial if you want to get any press. So you should already have researched the blogs, like Boing Boing, even like Fast Company, Motionographer, anything that has a hook they might be interested in your film. And make sure you've got all those contact details ready, so that the minute you put the film online, you can send it out to them straight away. You should make sure you've got a really good thumbnail, really enticing thumbnail on your video, and harness your crew. Like Facebook seems to be the real winner when you're promoting a film, because that promotes the most sharing, and that's where the thumbnail comes in, because you get that little preview box. I think that was it.
Does Short of the Week do that for the filmmaker, or
we just do some social through our networks. But what we'd always advise is to get your own sort of thing set up. Because also beware that the industry are watching, and Jason from Vimeo was telling me that he thinks that if your film gets over 30,000 views on Vimeo, somebody, like one of the people that's hired by agencies or talent companies, will probably have seen your film. So there's definitely a point at which eyes are on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can't remember who it was, but there was was it Sundance show? You actually would put people's films up, shorts, and then if they got enough views, they might end up being approached to make a long form for the main channel.
Right.
Was that happening? Was that Sundance? I remember some years ago, one of the American channels was doing that. So in other words, the shorts were seen very much there as a way of, you put the short up, see how much interest it gains, see the sort of feedback it gets back, and then use that, to see who's popular and so on.
I think it's a shame to think of a hierarchy where short form is the sort of little brother of long form, because that's not how I see it at all. And I think it's a sort of dangerous way of thinking, and it's not a very progressive way of thinking. I have to say, I think short form is a fantastic form to work with. It very much is the sort of short story of filmmaking. I work with a really short default setting, which is 3 minutes, and I haven't made too many shorts that are any longer than that, because you can do a hell of a lot in 3 minutes, and you can make a hell of a boring 5 minutes when you try as well. but it's very important not to see short form as being somehow like short TV or cheap TV, because it's not that, it's its own thing.
Yeah. Okay, over to that. I was put back in my box, wasn't I? Okay, let's throw this open to questions now. And obviously, starting up there at the back, microphone, please.
Hi, I'm Nadav. I'm Nadav Sudri. I'm a filmmaker. Adam, I was quite pleased to hear what you just said last about not viewing shorts as the little brother of long form. Sadly, I don't think the whole of Channel 4 sees it that way. I was in touch with Film 4 just last week, who said they wouldn't fund short of mine because they didn't think it was expandable to a feature length. Sorry,
because Film 4, you're talking about scripted drama, and I'm talking specifically about factual shorts.
No, I mean, I understand it, just thought I'd mention it. Anyway, well, I just wanted to ask you, in your initial reel, a lot of the films, if those are the ones you liked, I wanted to look at them further, and a lot of them didn't have titles on them. I wondered if you could just tell us a bit more about the names of the films on there that you liked.
Sorry, like I say, they were sort of cut together with a pair of shears by the looks of things. Okay, I'm going to have to do this a little bit from memory, but amongst what you saw is a series called Drones in Forbidden Zones. That was quite an interesting commission because with that one, when I first started doing short form commissioning, I spent a lot of time just looking at what worked online, and I noticed that, you know, if you stick a camera on the front of a new roller coaster ride in, you know, some small town, Ohio place, it would still get millions of views because people like spectacle. So I went to an indie and I said, okay, can you do me a spectacle film using drones? And that was the sort of brief. And then I gave a tiny bit more guidance, only to say that basically, you know, anything that you shoot that could have been shot with a helicopter, chuck that out. Anything that you shoot that could have been shot with a Steadicam, chuck that out. I want a native drone film. So that's what Drones in Forbidden Zones is. And, you know, that's a particular, you know, not probably a very sort of typical kind of genesis of the film, but anything goes really if it works. We saw body modification, which was actually quite an interesting sort of process of sort of spin-off. So one of the most successful films that I have done so far is called Tattoo Twist, sort of most successful series. It was done with a Romanian director that I met at a festival just like this who wanted to do a long-form film about tattoos and cover-ups. And I said, well, look, while you're raising the money, why don't we do something short? I don't know whether she'll ever do the long-form, but it works really well as shorts. But then it gave rise to another series which was called My Secret Tattoo, because that was a theme that came out of the first series. And then as a sort of 90-degree turn, we span off a series on body modifications on the basis that, is that what, you know, now that tattoos are so mainstream, is that the way people express themselves through their bodies? So in fact, that small indie, the Romanian director came to work with the UK indie. They've done 5 series. So they've done sort of over 50 films since the last summer.
The other titles in the list?
The other titles in the list, you saw Black Lesbian Handbook, which I've spoken about a bit. That was done by a tiny indie. Then there's you saw the film about the gay photographer in Northern Ireland. That's the first time filmmaker that I met when I was visiting Northern Ireland. It was like a pet project. His company had obviously said, if you can get this off the ground, you can do it out of our company. So that's very much a sort of passion project. That one hasn't come out yet. You saw a film that's the pilot of a series that's starting shooting tomorrow morning, called Circus Girls, which is a kind of combination of spectacle and just showing very tough, single-minded women. So it's a sort of strange combination.
All of these are still on all 4, are they?
They're all on all 4, yeah. So those are amongst the ones that you saw there.
So if you want to see what's being commissioned, go to all 4, look for the shorts.
Yeah. They're all available and they're all...
Can we move on to the next question? There was a question over on the other side there, and then I'll come back to you after that. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Hi. This is a question for...
sorry, who are you? Just so we know.
Sorry, Jonathan Beamish. I'm a filmmaker.
Okay.
Just the dilemma of sending... if you make a short and you want to get it online and obviously get ahead with work and everything, is there an issue with festivals? So, for example, if you want to send if you're confident about your short doing well at festivals, is there a conflict between sending it to start?
We actually wrote an article about that on Short of the Week and created a database of all the festivals that will accept films that have already been shown online. And it was surprisingly 2/3 of festivals would accept a film if it had already been online. So it's only really the big ones like the Cannes and the Venices that wouldn't. So yeah, I guess that's just...
Thanks.
Okay. Next question down here, please. Yeah, okay. Oh, there's 2 of you. Good heavens. So you are?
I'm Jess. I'm a series producer at The Guardian.
Oh.
This is a question to Channel 4. I'm interested why you've reduced the age to 16 to 24 for nearly all of your shorts and for Random Acts as well, particularly if you think that it isn't just a precursor to longer form.
How do you mean reduced it?
Well, Random Acts used to be open to everybody, and now it's...
it's the viewers, not the makers.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, that's because Channel 4 has 2 primary audiences, 16 to 24s, and we're pretty much the only sort of UK channel that's actually getting a younger audience overall, and then sort of upmarket ABC One. So we just have that's one of our strongest audiences, and that's our focus. Yeah.
But Random Acts is only open to.
Random Acts, I don't know the ins and outs of, to be honest, because I deliberately steer clear of it because it's its own thing. Okay. So I tend not to make films. Circus Girls is as close to art as I'm prepared to get. So.
By the way, we like Guardian shorts. We were talking about it earlier, so I was just saying, yeah. So, next question, yeah.
I'm a commissioning editor at The Guardian, and I'm doing features shorts as well as documentary shorts. And I was wondering how series was working generally online, because we find with our website, because it's a news website, it's much easier to have sort of one-hit wonders and make a big impact with one film that stands alone. And it's been harder for us to build audiences as a series, and the idea of publishing, say, once a week as you would on television doesn't necessarily work online. So I feel like we're in an interesting time in terms of working out, as you were saying, binge watching with series. Sometimes I think we should just do a series but release it all on the same day.
No, that's what we do. We put them all up in one go.
And you put the whole series up in one go?
Yeah.
But could that also be because, you know, basically you're seen as a news organisation, and therefore people expect news stories and consume them?
Well, Vice, for example, doesn't necessarily do that. They will, you know, YouTube, the culture of YouTube, you know, YouTube channels, for example, will have regular uploading, say, you know, every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. So they will do more of a series in terms of every week. And Vice have a slightly different model. Some series they might do, say, one a day for a week, or they might do... So I don't know, I guess we're all experimenting with...
Yeah. I mean, we've tried different things, but the thing that's most successful is releasing series in their entirety, because then people binge watch them, you don't have to get them back. And the numbers are always really good because, you know, they're multiplied by 8 or 12 or whatever, you know.
You haven't tried series on Short of the Week, have you?
We do. We do have some series, but it's a bit of a tricky one for us. We sort of have to have a big discussion before we'll put any.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, people are still trying to learn what goes on. There's a question over there. There's a question down there. Okay. We've probably got time for a couple more questions after this.
Okay. My name's Mike Stubbs from Fact in Liverpool. I'm a short filmmaker, as you can see, if I stand up. Sorry, you have to do that one once, don't you? And I actually did have quite good budgets, actually, from the BBC when they were commissioning shorts in the 90s. So I'm very interested in broadcast and think it's great to get work out there to the vernacular public. But on this occasion, what I want to do is plug diversity of platforms a bit further. Firstly, to bring your attention to a brilliant exhibition which is actually part of this festival by Heather Phillipson, co-producer performer, which of course is constituted out of a series of short films but in a gallery setting. And we remind you, when you see the Baldessari, which is just, for me that was short of the century, that of course that there is also a frame of fine art meeting moving image and shorts, which exists in a gallery system. Even in the public sector. So I want to kind of plug that a little bit. And then also just to say, of course, that what we think of short as it's gone from making films when I started of probably like 25, 30 minutes down to 3 to 5 minutes within and also commissioning a Random Act series or two. Then, of course, I've got daughters, who watch everything on Snapchat and Vine. So I think we also need to think a bit more broadly about where it's going to go as well. Mm-hmm. That's my comment.
There's a session tomorrow, I think, about whether arts online platforms are a graveyard or actually a good thing. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Obviously, a lot of short, art material gets on there. Right, there's another question. Did I see another question over there?
It's not so much a question, but it's just a little something to discuss. Just the finances of this stuff. So, to rent a room in London, just a room in East London or something, it's about £800, maybe £900 a month. So if it's £1,000 a minute, it's kind of, can people live off this kind of stuff or not? Because I normally shoot traditional Channel 4 programs, and I charge £300 to £500 a day for that. That was fine. I actually shot part of that Black Lesbian program there, and I didn't get paid at all. So I did it as a charity because the director said there's just not enough money to pay you. So, I'm not asking for favours or anything. I'm kind of fine in the normal broadcast area and doing branded content, that type of thing. But I guess, you do have to have a few things on the boil if you're going to do these kind of programmes for Channel 4.
I think some time ago there was remember John Harvey Jones, the businessman? He said that basically starting a small indie was a lifestyle choice because only about 5 out of 100 indies actually made anything more than enough to cover the rent or even that. And I have a horrible suspicion that making short films is a lifestyle choice. Kerrin, you were quite clear that great as they are, you're still having to subsidise it by doing other things. So I don't think who here is making a living out of making short films. I'd be surprised if one person.
You're forgetting that at the high end of the short is the commercial. Where
Yes, that's true, but I think we're not really, unfortunately, commercials is a whole different area. Yeah, okay, but it's not within the remit of this platform, I'm afraid.
But no, he means short, branded short form.
Branded short, do you, or do you mean commercials?
Well, it's the same field.
Yeah, that is.
Commercial.
Yeah. So you pay for your room by making commercials, basically.
The point. I don't think anyone's advocating short form as the basis of as a career. It's part of a mix, and most of the people that we work with are doing it alongside all kinds of other forms of production. The example that you cite, it's not something that we would agree with in any way. That film came out. It was the first commission for a brand new, very small indie. BAME-owned indie. I wouldn't condone that sort of way of operating, and I don't think they needed to make it that way. Yeah. But then I've given you another. I've given you another example of a small indie. Sorry, I didn't hear that. But I've given you another example of a small indie that's made 60 short films since last August. So, in that case, it's a significant.
With bulk helps.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's kind of what we aim for. So, we're working with that same indie that you work with to make some more.
Right. My watch tells me that we have to wrap this up now. There was one question there.
One up there who's been putting hands up for.
Okay. Am I allowed to? Very quick. Sprint.
We can do this one in a second.
Okay. One last one, and then one down here.
I'm a short filmmaker. Thank you very much for today. I had a really quick question for the young lady that's from Short of the Week. I just wondered, what is your highest search? What's the highest things that people search for? What are the categories that people want to, what type of films do people want to watch?
I think it's across the board, really. I think animation is always really popular online. Yeah. And we have a lot more live action than we do docs. So I guess they get viewed a lot more. But generally, when people come on the site, they're trying out lots of different films, lots of different genres.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Last question down here. But Katie, but basically you're choosing films on the basis that you like them and you think they're worth showing.
Or that they're
not so
interesting.
much, or they're interesting. Yeah. So you're not really looking for hits so much. You're interested, but that's not the
goal.
Sole goal. Okay.
Yeah.
One last question, yeah.
Hi, I'm Nadia Amrani. I'm a short filmmaker as well. This is aimed at the Channel 4 again. Sorry to not ask you guys. It's about the diversity of content. So Channel 4 shorts have great subject matter. But is there a process of you making sure that the filmmakers are diverse in any way? Do you care more about the idea that's pitched to you than the person making the film?
No, it's a massive thing, and it particularly is a sort of massive thing at the moment because there's, throughout the sort of history of Channel 4, there's always been a big push towards diversity within the sort of supply. But it's become, there's sort of a new regime that's kicked in this year, which is generating much more useful data so we can make proper comparisons across the industry. So it's a huge thing, and possibly something better to take offline so I can point you in the direction of the where the sort of guidelines are laid out. But it's a massive thing, and we pay a lot of attention to it.
Right, so I really do need to wrap it up, otherwise Ruth will get cross with me. We don't like that. No, she won't. But I'd just like to say thank you all for coming. I hope, and thank you to the panel for taking part, I hope what we've been able to do is give you just an idea of the kind of range of material that's out there, of the range of opportunities that are available, but also of the fact that actually what this is all about is about making You know, good stories, well told. Thank you very much.